Okay, welcome to our first set of online notes, and these notes are called What is Engineering? So we're going to be looking at what a basic definition of engineering is, and what some engineers do, and what types of engineers there are. Okay, so what is engineering? So we've looked at three different sources. We have Wikipedia, which says that engineering is the branch of science and technology, so it's combining science with technology. And it's that branch that's concerned with the design, building, and use of engines, machines, and structures. If we go to dictionary.com, it says that engineering is the art or science of making practical application, so applying, of the knowledge of pure sciences, as physics or chemistry, as in the construction of engines, bridges, buildings, mines, ships, and chemical plants. Then if we go to Merriam-Webster, they define engineering as the application of science and mathematics by which the properties of matter and the sources of energy in nature are made useful to people. So we have three different sources, we have three very different definitions, but they do have some things that we can sort of combine together. So everyone talks about science. So engineering is a part of science. It talks about technology. So we've got science, we've got technology. We have art. Okay. We have mathematics. So we have all of these different things. So we have science, we have technology, art, math, all coming together to create something, okay, or to fix something. So overall, if you put all of these things together, one thing that they all have in common is that engineering is problem solving. So if you want to know what engineering is, and you're trying to think about what it is, just think it's problem solving, okay? So what are engineers? Engineers are problem solvers. An engineer is a professional practitioner of engineering. So it's someone who does engineering for a living, a job. They're concerned with applying scientific knowledge, so using science, math, and ingenuity, so thinking skills, to develop solutions for technical problems. Okay, so again, it all boils down to that problem solving, and it's using math and science and art and thinking, okay, and technology all together. So what do engineers do? What are some things that they do? They offer service to a client to identify and solve a problem. So a client might already have a problem identified and they just need a solution. Or it could be somebody who says, I have this product, but it's not really working the way I want it to. And the engineer comes in and they look at it and said, okay, this is your problem. Now I have to figure out a solution of how to fix it. Okay. Then they develop and they test potential solutions to a problem. All right. So then they come up with this idea. All right, I have this part. It's not working how it's supposed to. I've identified the problem. Now I have to come up with a solution. So I've come up with an idea in my head. I'm going to create that idea, and I'm going to test it to see if that actually works. They also oversee contractors and or workers to make sure that the solution criteria have been met. Okay, so they have a problem like they need to create a new iPhone. Okay, so they offer a service to a client. I've got this phone, I've got this idea. The iPhone 5C doesn't do this, and I'm going to fix it. Okay. Then they develop some new software. I know how to make it run faster. I know how to make the battery run longer. They develop those solutions, and then they test them. Then they're going to have workers who are working on it. So then they're going to make sure that those workers are following the criteria for how the solution is supposed to be carried out. So they're going to be checking it, they're going to be overseeing it, make sure that their work is accurate, okay, that it's precise, and that it does what it's supposed to do. Engineers tend to be the brains behind projects. Okay? So they're the ones who are doing this thinking, and they have to think on their feet and problem solve, and they're the ones that when there's a problem arises, that's who people go to. So there are lots of types of engineers that help solve problems around the world. And we talked about a bunch of these, and you looked at them in your web quest. So there were aerospace engineers who design aircrafts and spacecrafts, computer engineers, and they design computer systems, chemical engineers. They work with molecules for specific functions. So they might create some molecule that's a plastic. And when they put a bunch of them together, it holds some chemical that's at a really high temperature without melting. We've got civil engineers. They design roads, bridges, drinking water facilities, things like that. So a bridge needs to be designed over the Tingsboro Bridge. They're calling in a civil engineer to do that. We have electrical engineers, and they design electrical systems in buildings and machines. So the wiring inside Gillette Stadium was designed by an electrical engineer. Environmental engineers, they design solutions for hazardous waste and pollution. So they look at factories and think, okay, how can I have this factory make less waste or less pollution? There are some factories that are, considered zero waste facilities, and so then they reuse everything, every byproduct that comes out of them. And so an environmental engineer would help be part of that process. You have materials engineers. So they design solutions using different types of matter. So they would look at a product and say, or a problem, let's say it's a chemical that's really, really hot, okay? Again, they would look for what different possibilities of different types of matter, what has a high, melting point that could hold this material without, warping and things like that. You have mechanical engineers. They design machines, tools, power plants. Structural engineers. They work in designing solutions dealing with structures that support or resist loads or weight. Now, these engineers are often going to work together. So you might see on one project a civil engineer, an electrical engineer, a mechanical engineer, and a structural engineer all working together. So a large part of an engineer's job is working with other people because they become very specialized in what they do. So they need someone else to be part of the solution because usually it's not just one person and one very specific thing that fixes a problem. It's a lot of different ideas combined. Engineers use technology to solve problems. So which of the following definitions do you think describes technology? We've got the making, modification, usage, and knowledge of tools, machines, techniques, crafts, systems, methods of organization in order to solve a problem, improve a pre-existing solution to a problem. So it's something that already exists, make it better. Like how we go from the iPhone 4 to the iPhone 4S to the iPhone 5 to the iPhone 5C to the iPhone 5S. So it's a pre-existing solution, but improving it. Achieving a goal. Handle an applied input-output relationship. So how you put something in and you get something else out. Like in a computer, you put in code and you get out a video game. Or to perform a specific function. We also have another definition, the use of scientific knowledge for improving the way to do things, the way of doing something and a means of organization, so a way to organize things, the making, modification or changing, usage, and knowledge of tools, machines, techniques, crafts, systems, methods of organization in order to solve a problem, improve a pre-existing solution to a problem, achieve a goal, handle an implied input-output relation, or perform a specific function. Then we have the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. All of them describe technology. So all of these things, okay, all are different ways of describing what technology is. Right? We think of technology as the things that we use that make our lives better. So what are some skills that are essential for engineers? Engineers have to have a knowledge of math and science. Again, they have to have interpersonal skills because they have to work with all different kinds of people to achieve the goal that they're trying to reach. They have to be able to have teamwork. Okay? They have to be able to get along with other people. Communication, right? Keeping up with other people. They have to be able to let other people know what they're working on and check in with other people to make sure that they know what's happening with another part of the project, with what another person is working on. So communication is a big one. Keeping, how to write an email. How to, making sure that you check your emails. Making sure that you're letting other people in on what you're doing. Meticulous work. So engineers have to be very careful and very precise, right? Because if they're building a bridge and their measurements are off by an inch, what could happen? Their entire bridge could fall into the river. They have to have a basic comfort level with technology. So not all engineers are using the same kinds of technology, and some engineers may not use technology as much or as often as another kind of engineer, but you have to have a basic level of comfort, be ready to work with some technology. Determination. So one thing that you're going to find over the course of this quarter is that you are going to fail. Your designs will fail. They will not work. It will not be the best. It will not have the intended outcome that you were hoping for. And you know what? That's okay, because that's how we learn. We expect you to fail. All right? We're going to help you work through that, but I want you to understand that that is going to happen. No matter how smart you are, no matter how hard you try, more than likely, the first time around, your idea is not going to work. But an engineer has to be determined to get back up, say, okay, that didn't work, let's try it again and see what we can do, see how we can do it another way, and figure out what went wrong. An engineer also has to have critical thinking skills. They have to ask questions. They have to seek out answers. So do research, talk to people, find out what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked. Compare their options. So look at some different things and think about what option is the best. And they also have to make decisions. Okay? Sometimes they have to do it really quickly because there's a deadline that they have to meet. So they have to be willing to say, all right, I'm going to try it this way. This is the decision I'm going to make, and go for it. And that is the end of our engineering notes. So you need to make sure now that you go to the Edmodo quiz and do that.